Teresa, it's Jori. This week, I wanted to talk to you about something that I did in my internship that probably freaks a lot of introverts out. And since a lot of writers are introverts, I decided that I would share my experience with you. This week, in my internship, I got to do something kind of amazing and kind of awkward, I guess. For the church blog, I will be writing a lot of blog posts about marriage and relationships, of all things. Me, who has never dated, I know nothing about relationships or marriage other than what I've been taught to do when I eventually get into a relationship. So naturally, I got to interview the marriage pastor and try to get lots of advice from him about what we were doing and what I should do for these blog posts. Conveniently, for these blog posts, I was able to use some of the tips that we learned in class to brainstorm a lot of different things to talk about. So that's my first tip, is if you're going into an interview, especially if it's for something that you're writing, make sure that you have a wide variety of topics. You can do this by brainstorming with a mind map. So you have your main point in the circle here, and then you have your categories bridging off of that, and then you have your topics bridging off of your categories. Those topics are what you write your post about. I did that, and I came up with 4 different categories, and I just came up with quite a few different ideas for what I could ask about and what I could learn about, because, like I said before, I know nothing about marriage or dating or relationships other than how to be a good friend. So here we are. I have done my brainstorming. I have made sure that all of the topics are okay with my supervisor, and I was getting ready for the interview. So I had all of my topics, and I decided that what I needed to do was sit down and write some questions so that I would not be tongue-tied when I actually got there. So I wrote down a bunch of questions that all led toward my blog post topics, and then it came time for me to actually go to the interview. So I brought my computer. This is tip number 2. If you can record the interview, the audio of it somehow, do. It will save you a lot of trouble later. But tip number 3, always ask for permission to record someone. You can't just walk in with an audio recorder, or I used a video recorder on my computer, the same one that I'm using to film this now. And I just made sure that he was fine with me interviewing him and recording it so that I could reference it later. So that's tip number 3. Always make sure that you ask permission to record what someone is saying. And if they say it's off the record, then you do not use that in your story ever. It's off limits. But yeah, so I was sitting there and I was interviewing him, and I was actually very surprised by how well it went, because I was able to keep my thoughts going, and I just had to guide the conversation toward the answers that I needed, which feels a little weird when you think about it, but actually works out pretty well when when you have 1 hour and you have to fit the entire interview in that 1 hour. And there were some times when I felt a little bit odd because there was some negative space and he would finish one question and I didn't have the next question ready, but that's because I was listening to him so I could remember what he was saying, even though I was also recording it, so I could walk away with some things that he was suggesting that would be helpful for my blog posts. So that's the big thing that I got to do this week, was interviewing for blog posts. And it was a little bit scary. I have never really had the opportunity or need to interview people before, other than for our media writing class. So being pushed into that situation, it wasn't horrible. Clearly I didn't die, so it is possible, and it's not the worst thing in the world to have to interview someone. As far as the rest of my writing goals this summer, I edited a chapter. We're working on getting that up more. I am about halfway through the book Finding God in My Loneliness. I read a lot on the plane on the way to the C.S. Lewis colloquium. And one of the fun things that I did this last week was I just binge read John Green's Turtles All the Way Down. This book is so incredible. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. That's everyone, Teresa included. And if you have read it, you should reread it again and annotate and find all of the beautiful quotes, because I swear within the first chapter there were like at least 3 quotes that I wanted to just keep forever, and that was the same way throughout the entire book. I don't know how he does it. How does he make things so quotable? How does he do that? I'm amazed. John Green, A+. I left a review on Goodreads, so yeah, if you want to see that, you can go follow my Goodreads. The link is down there. Next up on my reading docket is finishing Finding God in My Loneliness. And also, I'm planning on reading Magnus Chase. I've read the first one, but I need to read the second one. So I have that from the library, and I get to start that this week. I also am going to be able to get Ready Player One and finish that one. I started that book in February, and I got like halfway through it. And then school picked up and I didn't get to finish reading it. So I'm really excited to just pick up where I left off, because I'm pretty sure I'll remember the story. That's usually like one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. I finally have time to read the books I want to read, rather than the books I need to read, or have to read. Although, I do have 2 books that I have to read now for my internship, so that's kind of exciting. One of them is on leadership, and one of them is on branding. So the one that's on leadership is Next Generation Leader by Andy Stanley, and it's subtitled 5 Essentials for Those Who Will Shape the Future. Yeah, this book was recommended by my supervisor, so I'm really excited to find out what Andy Stanley has to say. Then the other book that I get to read for my internship is The Starbucks Experience, which is about branding, and I'm really just intrigued to see how this one goes, because it's all around branding, I think. It's subtitled 5 Principles for Turning Ordinary into Extraordinary, so here we go. Those are the books that I'm reading, and then I still have those 2 book review books that I need to finish, and then I have Ready Player One and Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard. Hopefully I can just binge read that in the next week or 2. Thanks, Teresa. I look forward to hearing from you on Thursdays. Until next time, see you then. This is the merch for this week. This came in that same batch with the other Avengers Infinity War stuff, and it's a tank top, and it's super comfy, and I love it. If you like what you're seeing here, please like and subscribe, and go follow Teresa as well. I'll put her links somewhere on this beautiful end screen. Make sure that you see the rest of our videos, because we're going back and forth with each other over the summer, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye!